In the depths of night, under a bruised sky dripping with secrets, I found myself compelled by an irresistible pull. Every evening, as the world slept, her silhouette danced along the deserted paths, a haunting enigma cloaked in moonlit determination. I followed, driven by an obsession that blurred the line between admiration and despair, each step echoing my desperate longing for truth. Then, in a moment of unbearable clarity, I witnessed her embrace a stranger, their passion unraveling my carefully woven illusions. That night shattered my quiet world, igniting a relentless journey of desire, heartache, and the pursuit of truth. I still remember that fateful evening as if it were etched into my very soul. The night was cool and the city's usual clamor had dwindled to a soft murmur. I had set out, as I always did, with the pretext of needing to clear my head, a poor excuse for a man whose every thought was consumed by her. 4 months, I'd watched from a distance, my eyes tracing her rhythmic steps along the winding, lamplit sidewalks. I convinced myself it was an innocent curiosity at first, a fascination born out of loneliness, but with every passing night, my intrigue morphed into something more potent and unsettling. At first, I thought I was merely witnessing the beauty of a solitary woman, gracefully running against the odds of the silent night. Her determination, the way her dark hair fanned out behind her, and the quiet power in her stride stirred something deep within me. I began to believe that in her nightly journeys, there was a message, a secret language of solitude and yearning that resonated with my own hidden desires. I felt connected to her in a way that transcended the boundaries of the everyday. Every beat of my heart, every labored breath, was synchronized with her steps, as if fate itself had conspired to intertwine our destinies. But fate, as it often does, delivered a truth that I wasn't ready to accept. One evening, drawn by a mix of desperation and hope, I trailed her along a new route, a narrow, cobblestone lane that curved along a forgotten part of town. The dim glow of street lamps cast long shadows and lent an eerie ambience to the scene. I hid behind clusters of hedges and parked cars, my eyes darting from one corner to another, capturing every detail. That's when I saw him, a stranger, tall, with an air of quiet mystery. The way he approached her, his steps measured yet urgent, sent a chill down my spine. In that suspended moment, as if time had paused, I watched her slow down. Her eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, the world fell away. Their embrace was not the rushed comfort of familiarity, but a tender, almost reverent closeness that spoke of shared secrets and profound understanding. My mind raced with questions. Had I misinterpreted her solitary runs all along? Was I chasing a phantom, a mirage constructed by my own yearning? The betrayal, real or imagined, left me trembling with a cocktail of envy, sorrow, and an unexpected surge of relief. I realized then that the truth I had been desperate to uncover was far more complex than the simple narrative I had constructed in my lonely hours. In the days that followed, I found myself wrestling with conflicting emotions. I oscillated between a paralyzing desire to confront her and a numbing resignation that perhaps I was not meant to be part of her story. Each night, the memory of that embrace replayed in my mind, a vivid montage of desire, vulnerability, and an undeniable connection between two souls that I had longed to be a part of. The revelation forced me to confront the darker corners of my own heart, the parts that had clung too desperately to a fantasy of possession and control. I started to question every moment we had seemingly shared, every fleeting smile exchanged across the distance. Had my silent vigil been nothing more than a projection of my own unmet needs? The realization was painful, yet it was also liberating. In that crucible of heartache, I began to see that my pursuit of her was never truly about her. It was about my own longing for connection, for validation in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. And as I grappled with these revelations, I began to understand that the truth I had witnessed that night was not a betrayal of love, but a testament to the complexity of human relationships. One evening, driven by a need to make sense of my emotions, I decided to confront the memories head-on. I revisited the very street where I had followed her that night, my footsteps echoing along the empty pavement. The air was thick with nostalgia and regret. I closed my eyes and allowed the sounds of the night, a distant siren, the rustle of leaves, even the murmur of my own breathing, to wash over me. In that solitary moment, I realized that the pain of unreciprocated longing was a universal experience, a rite of passage that everyone must endure to understand the depths of their own heart. I began to write down my thoughts, pouring out the raw emotions that had been bottled up inside me. Every word was a confession, every sentence an attempt to capture the tumultuous whirlwind of feelings that had come crashing into my life. I wrote about the nights of silent pursuit, the thrill of the chase, and the ultimate, crushing reality of witnessing her in someone else's arms. It wasn't long before I realized that my narrative was not one of failure, but of profound transformation. I was learning about the transient nature of desire, the inevitability of change, and the beauty that lies in accepting the unpredictable course of life. In the quiet aftermath of that discovery, I began to see the world in shades of gray rather than black and white. The stranger, whose brief appearance had shattered my illusions, became a symbol of the unpredictable twists that life often takes. I wondered about his story, what had drawn him to her, and what secrets lay behind his calm exterior. I recognized that the answers to these questions were irrelevant to the newfound clarity I had attained about myself. What mattered was that I had come to understand that every human connection, no matter how fleeting, has the power to alter the course of our lives. As days turned into weeks, I slowly distanced myself from the obsessive routine that had once consumed me. I immersed myself in introspection, seeking solace in the arts, nature, and quiet moments of reflection. I learned to appreciate the beauty of the unknown, the mystery that lingers in every unexplained encounter. The memory of that night, though painful, had become a catalyst for personal growth, a reminder that sometimes, the most profound truths are revealed not in the pursuit of another, but in the journey within oneself. Yet, even as I tried to let go, the image of her silhouette, now intertwined with that of the mysterious stranger, continued to haunt me. It was a bittersweet reminder of the delicate balance between desire and fulfillment, between the need to connect and the inevitability of letting go. In the solitude of my quiet apartment, I would often find myself staring at the night sky, the same bruised sky under which it all began, wondering if our paths might cross again, or if this was truly the end of a chapter that had defined so many of my sleepless nights. The complexity of human emotions had always been my unspoken muse, and now, with every recollection of that encounter, I felt both the sting of loss and the warmth of understanding. I realized that every person we meet, every moment of passion or pain, adds a stroke to the canvas of our lives. The journey was far from over, and I knew that my footsteps would eventually lead me to confront further truths, some perhaps even more challenging than this one. That night had sparked a transformation, a slow metamorphosis of the self that left me forever changed. As I retraced my steps through memory and midnight streets, I began to appreciate the intricate tapestry of chance encounters and the myriad emotions that bind us together. Though the pain of seeing her in another's arms was undeniable, it was also a reminder of the beauty of vulnerability, the raw, unfiltered human experience that lies at the heart of every connection. And so, with each new dusk, as I laced up my shoes and ventured out into the silent cityscape, I carried with me not only the memory of her fleeting embrace but also the lessons that came with it. I had learned that the truth is rarely simple or singular. It is a mosaic of moments, emotions, and unforeseen encounters. My journey had only just begun, and as the night whispered its endless secrets, I braced myself for the next chapter of a story that was as unpredictable as the wind, a story in which I, too, would learn to let go, to love, and ultimately, to live. In a midnight haze of fractured dreams and silent echoes, I found myself captive to a truth too raw to ignore. That night, as the city exhaled its quiet secrets, I trailed her under a sky splattered with starlight and doubt. Every step reverberated in my chest like the pulse of a forbidden beat, drawing me into a labyrinth of desire and regret. In a moment that blurred time and reality, I saw her, not as the object of my solitary fixation, but as a beacon of life, wrapped in the arms of a stranger whose embrace unveiled a truth that shattered my carefully constructed illusions. I had believed that my nights, spent shadowing her luminous path through the neon glow and shadowed alleyways, were merely an escape from my own haunted reflections. But that night, everything changed. I remember the cool air biting at my skin as I navigated the labyrinthine streets of our restless city. The rhythmic pounding of my heart mingled with the soft hum of distant traffic, and every rustle of leaves whispered warnings that I chose to ignore. I was determined to unearth the mystery behind her nightly jogs. What secret solace did they provide her, and why did my soul feel so tethered to her every stride? My footsteps led me to a secluded park, its narrow lanes lit only by scattered, trembling streetlights. Here, in this isolated pocket of urban wilderness, the night felt more alive, more confessional. I watched her approach with her usual grace, her pace steady as if each stride was a declaration of independence. But then, my heart caught in my throat. There, beneath an ancient oak, she had paused, leaning into the embrace of a man I had never seen before. His presence was a quiet defiance against my internal monologue of possessiveness, and his touch on her shoulder was both tender and unapologetic. For a long, suspended moment, I stood frozen in the shadows, my emotions colliding like a storm within. I had followed her out of a need to understand, to witness an aspect of her existence that was as mysterious as the moon's hidden face. Yet now, confronted with this unexpected intimacy, I felt as if I was staring at a mirror that reflected my deepest vulnerabilities and unspoken truths. It was as if her embrace with this stranger was an act of liberation, a silent proclamation that the narrative I had crafted in my mind was nothing more than a fragile fantasy. In the hours that followed, I wandered through my tangled thoughts, trying to reconcile the image of her carefree joy with the pain of my own silent longing. I began to question the legitimacy of my pursuit. Was I really following her for the sake of understanding, or was I trapped in a self-imposed maze of jealousy and yearning? The stranger's presence became a symbol of the unexpected revelations that life often offers, truths that are as uncomfortable as they are necessary. In witnessing their shared intimacy, I was forced to confront the reality that I had constructed an illusion, a narrative where I was the sole guardian of her happiness. Days blurred into restless nights as I grappled with this newfound awareness. I spent countless hours alone, pouring my conflicted emotions onto paper. Every sentence became an admission of my internal chaos, every paragraph a step toward understanding that love, in its most genuine form, was not about possession but about the freedom to be oneself. I recalled moments from my past, times when I had clung to fleeting shadows of hope, mistaking longing for love, and solitude for companionship. Each recollection deepened my awareness that the heart does not adhere to our logical designs. It rebels, it yearns, and sometimes, it finds solace in unexpected connections. One rainy evening, as the heavens wept over the city, I resolved to confront my inner demons. With trembling resolve, I made my way to the park where I had first seen them together. The drizzle transformed the night into a tapestry of blurred reflections and glistening puddles, each droplet echoing the cadence of my anxious heartbeat. There, under the shelter of the old oak tree, I sat on a cold stone bench, trying to decipher the myriad emotions that swelled within me. The rain's persistent murmur offered a kind of melancholy comfort, as if nature itself empathized with my internal struggle. In that moment of introspection, I came to a painful realization. I had been chasing an idealized version of her, a phantom crafted by my own desperate need for connection. The truth was that she, with her nightly jogs and silent secrets, was a free spirit, a soul determined to carve her own path irrespective of my longing gaze. The stranger's embrace, once a symbol of betrayal, now revealed itself as an emblem of her autonomy, a reminder that love is multifaceted and cannot be contained by the narrow confines of possessiveness. I began to explore the memories of my own life with newfound clarity. I recalled the times when I had dared to dream beyond the limitations of fear, when every encounter was an opportunity for growth rather than a battleground for my insecurities. The painful beauty of that revelation resonated within me, urging me to embrace the complexities of my emotions instead of running from them. In the quiet solitude of that rain-soaked park, I resolved to honor the lessons life had so reluctantly offered me. It was time to transform the sting of rejection into a catalyst for self-discovery, to see the world not through the lens of envy but through the eyes of acceptance. As weeks turned into months, I embarked on a journey of personal transformation. I sought solace in the simple pleasures of everyday life, a warm cup of coffee on a brisk morning, the soft murmur of conversations in a bustling cafe, the gentle caress of a breeze on an autumn day. I began to see that every fleeting moment, every unexpected encounter, carried the potential to teach us something invaluable about the human spirit. In learning to let go of my own illusions, I discovered that true liberation lay in embracing both the beauty and the pain of our experiences. The memory of that night, with its stark juxtaposition of tenderness and heartache, continued to haunt me, but in a way that was now imbued with meaning rather than despair. It became a constant reminder of the delicate balance between holding on and letting go, between yearning for connection and respecting another's freedom. I learned to cherish the silent spaces within myself where vulnerability could reside without being overwhelmed by possessiveness. Over time, the park where I had once hidden in the shadows transformed into a sanctuary of quiet reflection, a place where I could face my emotions head-on and emerge with a deeper understanding of my own identity. One crisp winter night, as I walked along a familiar path dusted with fresh snow, I encountered her once more. She was running with an ease and confidence that seemed to defy the chill in the air. For a fleeting moment, our eyes met, an unspoken acknowledgement of the shared past that had once bound us in a web of silent longing. But this time, I did not follow. Instead, I paused to appreciate the beauty of that encounter from a distance, savoring the realization that our lives were meant to evolve in parallel rather than in collision. That brief encounter marked a turning point in my journey, a subtle shift from the relentless pursuit of a love that was never mine to the humble acceptance of my own worth. I began to nurture my passions, rekindling old friendships and forging new connections that enriched my life in ways I had never imagined. The pain of the past, though still present in quiet moments, no longer held the power to dictate my every thought. Instead, it served as a gentle reminder that the heart, with all its complexities, is resilient and capable of profound transformation. In the end, I came to understand that the truth I had so desperately sought was not hidden in the fleeting embrace of a stranger, but in the quiet courage to confront my own vulnerabilities. The journey had taught me that every step, no matter how painful or uncertain, was a necessary part of my evolution. I had learned that love, in its most authentic form, demands not the confinement of jealousy but the liberation of acceptance. And as I continued to navigate the winding roads of my existence, I carried with me the bittersweet lessons of that fateful night, a night that had exposed the raw, unvarnished truth of human connection. Now, as I look back on those turbulent days, I see a tapestry woven with threads of heartbreak, hope, and eventual healing. Each memory is a brushstroke on the canvas of my life, vibrant with the hues of regret and redemption. The echoes of that stranger's embrace have faded, replaced by the gentle cadence of self-realization and the unwavering commitment to live authentically. My nightly walks, once driven by an unyielding need to follow her every step, have become journeys of introspection and renewal, each one a quiet celebration of the person I am becoming. The city still whispers its secrets under the cloak of night, and I still hear the distant murmur of footsteps on pavement. But now, instead of chasing shadows, I walk in the light of newfound self-knowledge. The truth I discovered in that stranger's arms was not a verdict of loss but an invitation to embrace the ever-changing rhythm of life. And as I continue to write my own story, I am no longer haunted by the past, but inspired by the limitless possibilities of tomorrow. That final, fateful night, the one that had set all my hidden truths ablaze, lingered in my mind like a bittersweet refrain, echoing long after the city had fallen silent. As the days wore on, I found myself at a crossroads, burdened with a kaleidoscope of emotions that seemed to pull me in every direction. In the quiet moments of dawn, when the world was still wrapped in a soft blanket of pre-dawn mist, I would close my eyes and see her image dancing across my mind, her determined stride, the effortless grace with which she navigated the night, and that unforgettable embrace with the stranger that shattered my carefully constructed illusions. In the weeks that followed, I began to let the raw intensity of that memory guide me toward a path of healing. I understood, with a painful clarity that only comes after the deepest of betrayals, that my relentless pursuit was never truly about her. It had always been about me, a desperate quest to fill a void, to reconcile the parts of my soul that had long felt isolated and unseen. In that moment of reckoning, I realized that my fixation on following her was a mirror reflecting my own vulnerabilities, a misguided attempt to grasp at something intangible and lost. One chilly evening, as the city hummed with the promise of renewal, I set out on a solitary walk through the winding streets that had once been my hunting ground. The familiar rhythm of my footsteps on the pavement, the whisper of the cool wind brushing against my face, and the muted glow of streetlights overhead all conspired to create a serene backdrop for introspection. With each step, I felt a tentative sense of liberation from the prison of my own expectations. I was learning that it was not the act of following her that defined my existence, but the journey I had embarked upon to understand myself. That night, as I meandered through a small park illuminated only by the gentle radiance of a full moon, I encountered an unexpected scene, a quiet gathering of people, each lost in their own reflective solitude. Their hushed conversations and knowing glances created an atmosphere of communal healing, a silent acknowledgement that the human experience was woven from threads of joy, sorrow, and resilience. I found a vacant bench beneath an ancient elm and sat down, allowing the natural cadence of the night to soothe the tumult within me. In the stillness of that moment, I began to write again. But this time, my words were not steeped in envy or despair, they were imbued with gratitude and hope. I wrote about the paradox of loss and discovery, of how the sting of seeing her in another's embrace had awakened in me a deep-seated desire to embrace my own vulnerabilities and to learn from them. I recalled every step of my journey, the nights of silent pursuit, the agonizing solitude of unreciprocated longing, and the eventual realization that true connection begins within oneself. With each word I penned, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders, a tentative lightness emerging where once there was only shadow. Over time, I began to see that the stranger's arms, the very image that had once tormented me, were a symbol of a liberation I had long denied myself. It was a liberation born not of abandonment but of acceptance, a recognition that every person, including me, is worthy of experiencing life in its fullest spectrum. I started to engage more deeply with the world around me, to seek out experiences that nurtured my spirit rather than binding it to the relentless pursuit of a single, elusive desire. I rekindled old passions, the simple pleasure of reading by the window on a rainy day, the intoxicating flavor of freshly brewed coffee shared with a kindred soul, and the quiet wonder of a sunset melting into the horizon. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the golden leaves danced in the breeze and the cool air whispered promises of change, I met someone who would forever alter the course of my journey. It was not an encounter marked by grand gestures or immediate revelations, but rather a gentle collision of lives that left both of us silently transformed. We spoke of our shared histories, the quiet heartbreaks, the fleeting moments of beauty, and the persistent hope that, despite it all, life continued to offer new beginnings. In that conversation, I discovered that the truth I had been chasing was not hidden in the shadow of another's arms, but in the delicate art of embracing every aspect of who I was. That meeting became a turning point, a subtle yet profound shift in perspective. I began to understand that the pursuit of happiness is not about clinging to the past or chasing an idealized version of love, but about finding beauty in the present, in the small moments that weave the fabric of our lives. I learned to appreciate the nuances of human connection, the laughter shared over an unexpected joke, the comforting silence of a shared gaze, the mutual understanding that sometimes words are not necessary. Each experience, no matter how fleeting, was a thread in the tapestry of my existence, rich with meaning and brimming with potential. In the quiet aftermath of that revelation, I slowly untangled the web of my own emotions, piece by piece. I started to let go of the need to define her or our relationship in the narrow confines of my own desires. Instead, I embraced the freedom that comes with accepting the inherent complexity of human nature. I understood that each person is a universe unto themselves, with their own stories, dreams, and sorrows, and that the truth I sought in the arms of a stranger was not a negation of my worth, but a mirror reflecting my own need for growth. There were still nights when the memory of her silhouette, the echo of her laughter, and the vision of that tender embrace would surge back unbidden. In those moments, I would allow myself to feel the full spectrum of my emotions, grief, longing, and even a trace of regret, without judgment. I learned that healing is not a linear process, it is a labyrinth of progress and setbacks, of revelations and the slow, sometimes painful, process of letting go. Each recollection became a stepping stone, guiding me toward a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly live. I began to see that the journey of self-discovery was as endless as the night sky above. Every experience, every encounter, was a fragment of the larger mosaic of my life. And while the path was often fraught with uncertainty and heartache, it was also illuminated by the promise of renewal. The pain of unfulfilled longing, the ache of witnessing a love that was not meant for me, gradually transformed into a quiet wisdom, a realization that every ending is, in fact, a new beginning in disguise. One evening, as winter began to edge its way into the city with a soft, pervasive chill, I took a long walk along the river that wound its way through the urban sprawl. The water, dark and reflective, mirrored the complexity of my thoughts. I realized that just as the river flows inevitably toward the unknown, so too must I let go of my attempts to control the narrative of my life. I let the current carry my worries and regrets downstream, accepting that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, and that there is profound beauty in surrendering to the natural course of life. Standing on the riverbank, I felt a deep, resonant calm, a sense of being part of something larger than myself. I no longer felt confined by the boundaries of my past or the shadows of what could have been. Instead, I embraced the present with an open heart, eager to welcome whatever the future might hold. The journey had taught me that while I might never fully understand the enigma of her nightly jogs or the hidden layers of her life, I could choose to find peace in my own story. The truth in that stranger's arms was no longer a source of torment, but a catalyst for my own rebirth, a reminder that even in the midst of heartbreak, there lies an opportunity for transformation. In the months that followed, I dedicated myself to cultivating a life rich with authentic connections and meaningful experiences. I reconnected with friends long lost to the busyness of life, explored new artistic passions that stirred my soul, and even began to venture into the realm of vulnerability by sharing my story with those willing to listen. Every conversation, every shared moment, added new layers to my understanding of love and loss. I discovered that true intimacy comes not from possessing another, but from sharing the depths of one's own journey, complete with all its scars and triumphs. There were still moments when I would catch a glimpse of her in passing, a flash of familiar movement in a crowded street, a fleeting encounter at a local cafe, and in those instances, a quiet smile would play on my lips. I no longer felt the sting of jealousy or the ache of abandonment. Instead, I felt a gentle gratitude for the role she had unwittingly played in my transformation. She had been both a muse and a mirror, reflecting back the parts of myself that I had long denied, urging me to confront my own truth. As the seasons shifted and the city donned new colors, I continued to write my story, a narrative no longer defined by unfulfilled longing, but enriched by the lessons of resilience, acceptance, and the quiet strength of moving forward. I began to see that each night, as I ventured out on my own terms, the darkness was not something to be feared but an invitation to explore the uncharted territories of my own heart. In that exploration, I discovered a beauty that transcended the superficial pursuit of an elusive connection. Instead, I found a profound sense of peace in acknowledging that every experience, no matter how painful, was a stepping stone toward the person I was meant to become. Now, as I sit at my desk with the soft glow of a desk lamp casting gentle shadows across my worn journal, I reflect on the winding path that has led me here. The memory of that stranger's embrace, once a symbol of betrayal and longing, has evolved into a quiet testament to the transformative power of introspection. I am no longer the person who trailed after a distant figure in the dead of night, nor am I the one consumed by the idea of a love that could never be contained. I have learned that the most profound truths are those we uncover within ourselves, often hidden in the spaces between heartbeats and the silent passages of our own thoughts. In embracing the unpredictable nature of life, I have come to cherish the moments of solitude as much as the instances of shared laughter and connection. Every day is a new opportunity, a blank page on which to write a story that is uniquely mine. The lessons gleaned from following her, witnessing that intimate encounter, and enduring the consequent cascade of emotions have all coalesced into a richer, more authentic existence. I no longer seek validation in the reflection of another's eyes. Instead, I find it in the quiet strength of my own journey, in the resilience that blooms even after the harshest winters of the heart. As I close this chapter of my narrative, I do so with a sense of gratitude and renewal. The mystery of her nightly jogs and the enigma of that unforgettable embrace will always be a part of my past, a poignant reminder of the complexities of desire and the transformative nature of loss. But I now stand at the threshold of a future filled with promise, my heart open to the endless possibilities that await. The truth I discovered was not a final destination, but an ever-evolving path, a journey that continues to shape me with every step I take. So, as the night draws near once more and the city's pulse quickens in anticipation of a new beginning, I lace up my shoes with a renewed spirit. I step out into the darkness not as a shadow in pursuit of another's light, but as a beacon of my own making, guided by the quiet strength of self-discovery and the unyielding hope of tomorrow. The echoes of that long-ago night have faded into a soft murmur, a reminder that every ending is, in its own way, the start of something beautifully unexpected.